A very warm welcome to StudyIQ. I'm Prashant Mauni. The date today is 22nd September 2017. Day is Friday. Let's see what we have got in PIB analysis. But before moving ahead, dear friends, let me tell you that we have got a Navratri offer for your pen drive and tablet courses. Now, you know that this pen drive and tablet courses are designed by one of the best faculties of our country, and they are designed to ensure that you have you get sort of conceptual clarity, your understanding regarding different subjects that are pertaining to your SSC, bank, UPSC and other government exams. And of course we have different courses, different pen drive and tablet courses for all these different exams, and they are designed, as I told you, by best faculties. So if you don't have it, then I would recommend all of you to get it as soon as possible. You are getting 30% discount because of Navratri. So if I would be you, I would get it as soon as possible, because the last date is 29th September. If you want to know more about it, give us a call on this number, or you can check out our website as well. Now let me tell you that you have to give a call on this number during office working hours. If you give a call around 11, then you won't be able to, there would be no one to answer you. So keep this in mind as well. Today, dear friends, we are going to talk about three items, and these items are pertaining to international relations. Of course we are going to focus on India's perspective. Then we have one local news, and we have basically we have two national news, and the last one is about energy, which is important for your mains examination. So without wasting any further time, let's crack on. Ministry of External Affairs. We know that United Nations General Assembly is going on, and this year Sushma Swaraj is representing India in at this global platform. And let me tell you one more thing, that whenever you find this sort of mammoth meetings, or this huge amount of this huge or big meetings taking place, particularly big summits, whenever they take place, so on the sidelines we do try to ensure that we can interact with other countries. So here Sushma Swaraj has interacted with BRICS ministerial ministers, right? BRICS ministers. So it is known as BRICS ministerial meeting. This took place in New York, and as I told you, in the sidelines of General Assembly. Now, two things are important when we talk about United Nations General Assembly. One is climate change, and the second is terrorism. These are the two biggest issues through which humanity is going through, right? If you observe the address of the nations, then you will find these two things in their speech. And this is something that is threatening the whole humanity. In fact, climate change is a threat for life itself on our planet, and terrorism is of course a big threat for humanity, peace and security. Now she has hinted, she has said that there are some elements, rogue elements in South Asia, and of course when we talk about South Asia, then we know that she is referring to Pakistan. Now dear friends, it is very important for you guys to know that when we say, or when we hear a word called South Asia, then we should know that we are talking about this part of the world, and it is one of the most important for our country because we are part of South Asia. Now, countries of South Asia, you have Afghanistan, you have Pakistan, India, of course, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Maldives. Now, you find Myanmar here in the map. See, many a times you will find that Myanmar is taken as a South Asian country. In other maps or in other documents, you find that it is not part of South Asia. In fact, it is part of Southeast Asia. But let me clarify one thing for you all. Do not get confused with these things. The simple thing is that we are focusing on SAARC, and SAARC is about South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. Thus, this is the region of South Asia. So this SAARC is all about having a cooperation within this region. So in SAARC, when we talk about SAARC, we do not include Myanmar. So keep this in mind. This much is more than enough for your understanding. Now, of course, she has talked about terrorism. She has talked about Pakistan. So she has also mentioned that and this is something very common, very basic, and I'm sure you know about this thing as well, because this thing has been discussed so many times, that Pakistan is supporting terrorist people or their groups. Pakistan is providing shelter, money, food, all these things, right, is provided by Pakistan, which is something a matter of a very common understanding, isn't it? This is something very common, so there's no point of going deep into it. She has expressed about her worry about West Asia. I'll show you what West Asia is all about, but before that, she has also said that, in fact the BRICS leaders have also said that we should adopt the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism in United Nations. This is CCIT, it is also known as, and CCIT is something that is placed, it was a sort of initiative that was taken by India, and the shame is that at present United Nations does not have any sort of official definition about terrorism. This is very sad. So this indicates that reforms are required in United Nations. We need reforms, because if this is the way it is going to work, then we are not going to achieve the target. If we don't know, if we cannot define our enemy, then how we are going to fight against it. Now coming to West Asia, this part of the world is known as West Asia. Now when she was referring that the problems going on, or the crisis in the Gulf, particularly that Gulf itself is part of West Asia, then one thing one thing that should be crystal clear in our mind is that here you have two groups, two rival groups. One is led by Saudi Arabia and one is led by Iran. Now if you look at from front side, what it looks that this is a sort of religious rivalry, because Iran is a Sunni state, beg your pardon, Iran is a Shia state and Saudi Arabia is a Sunni state. Let me repeat myself to make sure things are clear. Iran follows Shia Islam and Saudi Arabia follows Sunni Islam. Saudi Arabia has many players as their team member. It has Yemen, it has Oman, it has UAE. At present the relations with Qatar is not that good. In fact it is very bad. Then you have Bahrain, you have UAE, and then you have other countries, Kuwait, Iraq, not Syria but Jordan, and you have Palestine, Lebanon. These are the countries that are members, or they are the friends of Saudi Arabia. Iran is a very strong country again, and Iran is having good relation with Syria. So the thing is, as I told you, it looks that this is a sort of religious rivalry, but one important thing is that all these countries, most of them are engaged in producing oil. So this is the biggest factor. Economic dominance and power dominance within this region is one of the most important factor, and the country that is having complete control on this part or this waters, then they are going to benefit a lot. So there has been sort of problems within these countries, and it is a sort of thing that is going on for the longest period of time. So problems in this part of the world is going to impact India and the world. Now let me tell you, if these countries are going ahead with a war, if there is a sort of trouble brewing in this part of the world, then it will impact oil prices, and this is going to kick inflation. This will make higher oil prices, will make things expensive in our country, which is not good for us. She has also told about, basically India has talked about early comprehensive reforms of United Nations and Security Council. Now we have talked about United Nations and Security Council, so I'm not going into those details, but another thing that I would like to present you or drag your attention is about IBSA. IBSA stands for India, Brazil and South Africa, right? This is altogether it is small of course than BRICS, but it is a group in which you find these three developing countries. Now another thing that is talked about in this context is about South-South cooperation. What is South-South cooperation? South-South cooperation has emerged as it is a sort of a mechanism that fosters mutual benefit, recognizes sovereign identities and engages fellow developing countries in variety of linear linkages, right? Fellow developing countries. South means southern hemisphere. All the countries that are below or are in the southern side of tropic equator, right? All the countries that are below this 0° latitude or equator, and we know that most part of Brazil is below equator. It is in southern hemisphere. South Africa is completely in southern hemisphere. Of course, India is not in southern hemisphere, but then as well, because we are part of IBSA IPSA, we have supported this thing of South-South cooperation. Moving on to another item, President of India visited Diksha Bhumi. Diksha Bhumi is the place where Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar adopted or accepted, you can say, or embraced Buddhist religion or Buddhism. We know that he faced the casteism. He has seen the bitter side of caste system because he was a victim of that, because he was born in a Dalit family. He was a scholar, no doubt. He has worked for Dalit people, and many a times, or generally speaking, we recognize him as a Dalit leader, or we recognize him as a sort of constitutional father of our constitution. But very few people know that he was a brilliant or extraordinary economist. He has studied from some of the best universities or colleges of the world. He has been to London as well. He has been to America as well for his higher studies, and he was very much against about this caste system, and this was one of the main reasons he embraced Buddhism. So this is the place, Nagpur, where he embraced Buddhism as a religion or his way of life. And on this occasion, President has talked about Vipassana. Now, what is Vipassana? Vipassana is a breathing technique that was in fact invented by Lord Buddha himself. And President Kovindji has clearly stated that yoga and Vipassana are not pertaining to or are not related with any sort of religion. They are in fact for the well-being of mankind. And I can tell you, friends, I can tell you that Buddha himself was not religious at all. He was atheist, and this may sound strange, but yes, he was atheist. And the technique of Vipassana is very scientific. It is about breathing. So he said that you don't have to chant any sort of sloks, or you don't have to chant any mantras, or you don't have to take name of any god. If you just observe your breath, then things would be fine with you. So this is his meditation technique. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in his 2 days visit to his constituency, parliamentary constituency, that is Varanasi. He is going to meet Chief Minister, Governor of Uttar Pradesh, and there are other things that that is going to happen here, like Mahamana Express and other things. But as things gets a bit mature, then we will talk about it in detail. But at present, let's focus on the things that are going on with Korea and China. Now, in United Nations General Assembly, Donald Trump talked about, or he has clearly stated, United Nations stand on North Korea. He has said that if we get any sort of threat, if we find that we are going to be attacked, then we will completely destroy North Korea, its people, the whole nation, in fact, right? We don't care about 25 million people, because we have to destroy this regime of this Kim Jong-un, or else he is going to eat away the whole humanity, because this sort of, he used the word rocket man for Kim Jong-un. The other thing is that he also, a couple of days ago, he has threatened that he is going to cancel the Iran nuclear deal as well. Now, I'm not sure whether how many of you know about Iran nuclear deal, but allow me to explain it as briefly as possible. Basically, it was a couple of years ago, somewhere between, if you go through the newspapers of 2012 to 2015, then you will find this nuclear or the nuclear issue of Iran. It used to be there in a week. You will find it twice or thrice in international page, or many times in front page as well, because it was believed that Iran is producing or it is engaged in producing nuclear weapons, which was very much frightening for many countries. So there were 5+1 country, and when I say 5+1, I'm talking about the powerful 5 or the permanent member of United Nations Security Council, that is France, Russia, USA, Britain and China. And when we say 5+1, then we include Germany with it as well. So these are the 6 countries, right, that got together. These are the most powerful countries of the world, and with it they sat on a table, and it was difficult for these countries as well to bring Iran on board. And finally we managed to struck a deal on nuclear, sort of an Iran nuclear deal, in which it was agreed by Iran that it will not produce any sort of nuclear weapons. So this was good for the world. It was quite revealing, not revealing, it was quite relieving. I beg your pardon for that, it was a slip of tongue. Anyways, so it was quite good for the whole world, and we had a sort of deep breath. We thought like things are okay now, but this statement of Donald Trump is not going to be helpful for the other nations and for Iran and for the whole world. We are just talking about this West Asia, isn't it? We were talking about West Asia, and I told you how it is important that tranquility and peace is maintained in this part of the world, so that oil prices and other things do not get negatively impacted, isn't it? Now, if we go back to the relation of North Korea and USA, then since Korean War, things were not that good. There was a time during Bill Clinton's era when things were looking bit good, and North Korea decided that it was going to get rid of its plutonium program, that basically means bomb making program, and there was a sort of agreement between USA and North Korea. And this was the time when Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, he was the supreme commander of this country. But then came the era of Bush, and in 2002 he was quite aggressive about, or he started throwing some aggressive words regarding for North Korea. And this after that we are seeing that North Korea started or it engaged itself in making nuclear weapons. And nowadays as well, we are consistently witnessing that the more pressure we are putting on North Korea, the more bombs it is creating. In fact, it is using the victim card. North Korea, or the leaders of North Korea, are telling to their people, or they are trying to convince or take the people on board as well. They are saying that if we don't have nuclear weapons, if we don't increase the arsenal of nuclear weapons, then we are going to be attacked. So he is also trying to influence the emotion of people, or he's taking the benefit of the fear of being attacked by Western countries. And this is one of the reasons he's successfully producing more and more weapons, and people are also cherishing this thing about their leader. He is doing this. He knows that what happened in Libya and other parts, Tunisia and Libya, so he is quite skeptical. He's about USA and its deal. So he does not, for him nuclear weapons are a sort of protection. Now the world should pressurize China, and because you find that 90% of trade of North Korea is with China. So if China wants, or if China takes a lead, then we can put some pressure on North Korea. Until then, it is going to be a bit difficult to rein this the heavy-handedness or aggressiveness of North Korea. Last item of the day, and this is about energy basket and its future. Now we have just told you that climate change is an important thing, and we know that around the world, people, or all the countries are trying their level best to produce as much as energy from renewable sources. That includes solar, wind, hydro, biomass, natural gas and nuclear. We were talking about nuclear yesterday, and so I'm sure you know many things about nuclear now. And the main target of our country, we have decided that by 2022 we are going to produce in total 175 gigawatt, right? This is important figure, 175 gigawatt. We are going to produce 175 gigawatt from renewable energy. That includes all these things, but today we are going to focus on two things. One is solar, and the second is wind. By 2022 we will produce 100 gigawatt from solar energy and 60 gigawatt will come from wind. And it is also believed that by 2027, that is after 5 years of 2022, we may raise the bar and we may target 275 gigawatt production from these two things. If we go through the potential, then we can, or the total potential what we can produce in future, if we utilize it, if we exploit this area completely, then we can produce 900 gigawatt just from solar power and 300 from wind. So imagine just 1200 gigawatt can be produced from these two things. There is a journal called Joule, and it is saying that by 2050 100% of energy that is produced in India would be coming from renewable source of energy, which is a very good thing, and this is something in line with our new India. Of course, new India has to be achieved by 2022, so for that we have to ensure that we achieve this 175 or hopefully cross this target as well. Now the thing is, where do we stand at present? If we go through the figures of solar production, and these figures are important, so please pay attention here, that we are producing 14.28 gigawatt from solar energy, and even if you further divide this thing, then we find that 12.28 is coming from ground mounted solar tops, and 2 gigawatt is coming from rooftop. So this is the thing, and individual target of we know that 100 gigawatt to be produced from solar, and 60 is going to come from this ground mounted, and 40 is coming from 40 should come from rooftop solar. Now challenges, of course we have challenges, and the main challenge is that at present we are just getting 2 gigawatt from rooftop, isn't it? And for achieving by 2022 we have to produce 40. So this is a big gap between what we are producing now and what we what our target is basically. So the big challenge is that there is no sort of legal framework, sound legal framework is not seen. So there are some vacuum areas, there are some gray areas which are not defined, and this can create sort of problems like non-performing assets, or the money, or the subsidy that is provided by the government, or the loan provided by the banks or other institutions may become non-performing assets if we don't design laws. The other thing is that our solar cells and our solar modules, solar cells can produce, or their capacity is 1400 megawatt, which is very low, and so is 5600 megawatt capacity of solar modules, which is again low when we compare it with global competitiveness. In wind we are doing bit okay, but we are producing, out of 60 we have managed to get 32.28 gigawatts so far. Recent years we have broken many records, right? You can see that it was record 3.4 was record in 2015-16. In 2016-17 our target was 4 gigawatt, but we managed to produce 5.4, so this is good. But this year, the first quarter, we have just clocked 0.228 gigawatt, and this is because of now the companies, the discoms, are not happy with power purchase agreements, because the bid is for 4 to 6 rupees, but the prices of this wind production has gone down. It is the latest one is 3.42. so of course they are making loss here. So they want government to resolve this issue. They want them to give them a new deal. Now current requirement of our country at present is 330 gigawatt, and by 2030, that is after 12 or 13 years, after 13 years it could rise, or it could increase by about 120%. So we have to produce as much as possible from renewable sources to match the requirement we will face in 2030. The other thing is that, friends, that village definition, electricity of village, or and village that has electrified village definition has many flaws in it. Imagine that at present it is just 10%. So if you say, for example, if there is a small village of 100 houses, and if 10 houses out of that 100 are provided with electricity, then that house gets a mark that it is completely electrified. So this is a very flawed concept, and we should change it as soon as possible. Apart from that, if you want to find some solution, then here are 4 things. One is that we have to keep on upgrading the skills of people who are working in this sector. There should be a period fixed, but ideally it should be somewhere below 2 years. Research and development is required. Both government should invest in research and development, and so we should leverage and attract private research as well. Credit rates, that is the loan rates, the interest charge on loan is quite high. If it comes down, then it will kick or it will become beneficial for discoms as well, and we need to manage our resources in much more better way. These are 4 solutions for now. If we find anything else, we will add on, but remember, all the figures that are provided here are very important. With this, dear friends, I end this lecture. Do not forget to get your pen drive courses. The offer is valid only till 29 September. Do not forget to subscribe, share, like, and pass me your valuable comment. I have gone through your answers. I must say that I am impressed. Thank you very much for making this platform as interactive as possible. Other people as well, I would request all of you to go through the lectures and do try to provide your answer. With this, I would like to take your permission to wish you good night and goodbye. I'll see you all soon. Enjoy your studies. Jai Hind.